Before I start this video, I want to send my condolences to the family and friends of Borja Gomez, who sadly passed away yesterday at Magny-Cours. He was a former Moto 2 rider for the Fantech team, and he was also a Spanish Championship rider, and also did some races in World Supersport as well. We are sending our thoughts and our prayers with his family during this difficult time. Now, as you might have seen in the news, MotoGP has a new owner, and of course is Liberty Media, who now own 84% of MotoGP, which it's a big deal. Under the Liberty umbrella, we now have F1, MotoGP, and I think it is something that's good for the future. I want to give my thoughts on what I think they can improve and what they can bring over the next few years. And really, what's it going to mean for the sport? Are we going to see a dramatic difference straight away? It'll take time, I think, but yeah, let's get into the talking points. So, it's not a bad thing in my opinion. People I've seen on social media, I see it a lot. People get worried about they're going to do this with the sport. They're going to add street circuits. They're going to do this. I'm like, no, it's not going to be like what they've done with F1 in terms of a commercial and media product. They have made F1, I think, one of the best spectacles in all of sport broadcasts, and I think that it's a testament to how, no matter how can I say, boring the races might be for F1, their spectacle they create and how they portray the speed of F1 and how they do the overall package. It's very appealing to the casual viewer who's never watched motorsport for the first time. And I think that there's a chance that MotoGP can do that. I think the broadcast that MotoGP have is brilliant. The camera work, the technology is fantastic. But there's key areas that lack in that for me. And it depends where you watch MotoGP around the world. For me, I'm based in the UK, but I can watch TNT if I want, but I don't. I watch it on Video Pass. And this is my first point. There's a few things with Video Pass I would like to see change in the future, and I do think that there would be a more emphasis on the Video Pass side becoming like F1's F1 TV. The quality of broadcast you get, it's very limited. I mean, the commentary teams are fine in terms of who they have and for each session, but there's no in-between bits, and I think that's the real underwhelming part for me. I think that there needs to be a full day broadcast like we have on TNT, or if you watch on the Zone in Spain, or if you're watching in, say, Austria with Service TV, they have a full day broadcast like F1 would do on Sky F1. And I think the F1 TV side, they've taken it to a new level every time I've watched it. They've got their own broadcast team, and they are very good at the analytical side. They have, like, how can I say, if you've watched, say, Monday Night Football in the UK on Sky Sports, you'll see the Sky Pod or the big TV they have, and they break down things from football matches. I think MotoGP needs this on its Video Pass world feed. I think it needs to have something along this lines of a deeper look in terms of an incident, for example, or a move, or why someone's doing this when they're braking, or why their riding style's this. They analyse where they're good at, and I think that there's a severe lack of ex-rider input. And we had Simon Crafer, who went on to be a steward, but a real lack of displaying that to the audiences isn't being shown by Dorna, and I think Liberty are going to do that, because at the weekends of the Dutch Grand Prix, there's a social media clip from the TNT Sports broadcast in the UK from Neil Hodgson, who of course is former World Superbike world champion and ex-MotoGP rider, and he fantastically broke down the incident between Alex Marquez and Pedro Acosta, and it was 2 minutes of him stopping it, pausing it, showing where the incident happened, saying how it happened essentially, and you got a clearer understanding. And I think Dorna on their world feed really lack in that area of scrutinising why this incident happened, not putting any blame on anyone, but just saying this is why it happened. Then it creates the clarity for the wider audience, and it can be shared across social media. And that's why I was a big fan of what Neil Hodgson and TNT have been doing this season. I only see their clips on Twitter for these types of analysis pieces, and they're fantastic. We could really be doing with that on the world feed. And the other point is, we need bigger names. We need a proper broadcast team. I think they're very limited in what they have, and if you could get ex-riders, an actual presenter who can talk through what's the day's program, what they're going to be doing, who they're going to speak to, little features here and there. It just feels very static in it. It also, personally, it feels very under budget compared to what MotoGP should be. They should be portraying it in a bigger light, but I think that Liberty Media will come in and make a big difference in that area. Secondly, with Video Pass, the price. I think the model of pricing, it's not good enough. It's a one-off payment, essentially, of £150. A lot of people can't afford that. And I do think the Video Pass is a fantastic library of options. You can go back and watch races all the way back to 1992. But the value of getting someone who wants to pay £150 as a newcomer, very, very difficult, in my opinion. I think it should be monthly payments, payments of 3, 4, 5 months over that time. Make it affordable. F1 have plenty of options on their F1 TV. For example, in the UK, I can't actually watch the F1 TV broadcast, but I can use their personal library of all the F1 races going back to the 70s, and that cost me £2 a month, I think, just to watch the library of footage. I think it's £20 over the whole year. It's incredible value, and that's what I like about the F1 side. They can get people who want to learn about the sport in at a cheaper price, and it just creates more of an easier way to build a community, essentially. And what do I think is going to happen for the wider circle in terms of what Liberty can bring? I think firstly they need to come in and they understand the power of marketing in terms of a series of a Netflix series or a just getting it out there. The advertising is spectacular for F1. You've seen it this year. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, but they had that big, massive F175 event at the O2 Arena in London, launched all the cars. It was a sellout event. It was the talk of the town. They do it right. MotoGP is not going to be at that level. I don't expect it to be. But the key thing for me is, and it's not to sound how can I say, uh, stubborn in my own ways. The key factor for F1 that has broke into America and why they became so big, the Netflix series helped, but the speaking of English as the predominant language, that's how you get the bigger audiences to grab, and that's how you get commercial partners to jump on board. If they can hear people speaking English and they can see videos, they can see personalities come out more, I think that's the logical step, and I think that we'll see that with MotoGP. I know that they've tried it in the cool down room, essentially, with the riders at the end trying to get them to speak in English, and it does seem a little bit forced. But in F1, I know that predominantly the drivers all speak English, and majority of the teams are all based in the UK, but they still speak English, and you can hear their reaction straight away. In my case, I'm not talented enough to learn multiple languages, so I have to wait for the transcribed video of the Dorna cooldown room to hear what Marc Marquez has said about his brother's crash at the weekend to Marco Bezzecchi and Pecco Bagnaia. It takes that away from me a little bit in terms of I want to hear what they're saying straight away instead of having to wait for a couple of hours on social media. Very first world problem, I know that, but it's just little things that I think Dorna can, they can polish up on, but I think that Liberty will come in with a real emphasis to try and build that. And lastly, I think the commercial side, in terms of the broadcast and the rights and the media, I think we're going to see a massive change in terms of usage of content. I think, personally speaking, as we run this channel, you could really be doing with a lot more stuff in terms of the footage you're allowed to use and talking about MotoGP, getting it out there to people. It's not I think they need to look at that in terms of how media corporations and companies can use the footage to portray the sport. It needs to be done because I think the power of social media and giving it to the fans who can just basically share what they want without getting a copyright strike or anything like that. I think that Liberty need to come in and kind of tighten up the rules, but like also loosen it to fans and let us share things to people, because MotoGP, as you know, it's a fantastic, spectacular sport to watch, and I think it has a place that can get into the sporting world, because MotoGP is not going to compete with just motorsport. And the reality is, F1 has went from fighting to be competitive in the motorsport industry to being one of the leading sports in the world. And it's incredible what Liberty have done there. And I think that that's the key thing for them in the first few years of their adaptation period with MotoGP. You don't look at it in the sense you need to be the best motorsport. You need to be the best sport or one of the best sports, because you're going to compete against football, basketball, American football, cricket around the world. How big some of the sports are. You need to get into that psyche of the normal person who doesn't watch MotoGP, who's never heard of it, that this is something you should spend 45 minutes on to watch. And I think that's the key with MotoGP. The product is fine. The race lengths are fine. The sprint race is fine. Get it out there. Let people watch it, because if they can get hooked on it, they've done it with F1. MotoGP is better than F1. Like, I just biasly can say that. This is a real good opportunity for the world of MotoGP to get out there to the masses of people that have no real idea about it. They might know who Valentino Rossi is, or they might not be sure about superbikes and what that is. Could that be a gateway to them, get them into MotoGP? I think it's endless possibilities. I think the calendar isn't going to change that much. I think in terms of the circuits that we go to, I think we'll see maybe less Spanish rounds, and then we'll see other tracks get added. But yeah, I'm excited to see what the future holds for MotoGP. I think it's a good thing. I hope Liberty can do a great job and just get the sport out there to more people and eyes around the world, because it's one of the best, if not the best sport in the world, when it's just right. I think that needs to be out there for everyone to see. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe if you're brand new, and we'll see you next week for the Christ MotoGP podcast. Take care.